What is up, everyone? Darkside Phil here, and today I want to talk about a game that I am just really flabbergasted, disappointed with. A game that I just can't believe that in this day and age, the modern year of 2013, that this game honestly was put out in the condition that it was. Now, the thing that I want to preface this with is to say that I did buy the game. It is a multi-platform game. I bought it for the Xbox 360 console, and we're going to address the issues, because I know some people are going to be saying, oh, well, if you wanted to buy this game, you shouldn't have bought it on the Xbox 360. You should have got it on the PC or whatever. Some people might even say PlayStation 3. I don't know, because I don't have those versions, but I bought the version of the game for my favorite gaming platform. I shouldn't be forced to buy a version of the game for a certain platform because it's a certain type of game, and we're going to discuss that, but the game that I want to discuss is a game that is unique in the fact that it's a tie-in with a show that's going to be coming out in just a little under a week and a half now on the Sci-Fi Network. It's a game that is ambitious. It strives to be a third-person shooter MMO. And I know you might say, wow, a third-person shooter MMO, how often do you really see those? You don't. Usually it's either like a role-playing game, like you had your Final Fantasy XI, or you had, you know, World of Warcraft, which is probably the most famous of the MMOs. And there's been other MMOs that are free to play as of late. Recent ones, DC Comics Online, PlanetSide 2. So there's been a lot of these MMOs that have striven to be, you know, more mainstream. It's not like back in the day when, like, well, MMO, if it's going to come out, it's going to be on PC, and that's it. Because that's the only thing that's the only platform that can handle it, and therefore, you know, that's where we draw the line. These MMOs are now striving to become more mainstream and to be multi-platform. Well, the game we're talking about today is Defiance, okay? And I'm here to tell you right off the bat, before I even get into the details of the game, do not, under any circumstance whatsoever, buy Defiance for the Xbox 360. Now, everything that I say about the game in this video is going to be pertinent to the Xbox 360 version. Keep in mind, I have not played the PlayStation 3 or the PC versions. I have no idea whatsoever if those are any better. But I'm here to tell you that this game on the Xbox 360 is unacceptable and unplayable, okay? Now, first of all, let's just talk about the core mechanics of the game. The game throws you into this world of Defiance with very little explanation or backstory. It's very apparent when you start playing the game that the game expects you to watch the show to really get the full breadth of the atmosphere and you know, the culture and the story of this world of Defiance. So you really don't know what's going on. It throws you into a quick explanation splash screen with text of some war going on between aliens and humans, and there's an invasion or something. And then you basically become the character who you create. You're on an air transport with some guy named Von Bach. The air transport gets shot down. You're now stranded on the planet where you go through a tutorial mission explaining all of your different abilities and letting you choose some of your initial loadouts of, like, do you want a cloak or do you want to have a decoy? And then basically the game starts off, you're searching for Von Bach, okay? Now, I played Defiance for about 3.5 to 4 hours. And to the point where I said, I can't play this game anymore. And we're going to go through the reasons why. I just got so fed up with the game that I said, this game is not playable on the Xbox 360. No one should have to suffer this. This is $60 down the drain. Okay. First of all, the gameplay is extremely repetitive, extremely generic. There's really nothing about the gameplay of Defiance that stands out and makes it an attraction among the pack of games that are out there that you're going to spend your hard-earned money on. It plays very similarly to other third-person shooters out there. However, it's odd because the game really, when you start playing it, it feels like you're playing Borderlands. And there are so many parallels between Defiance and Borderlands that it's just like, you can't avoid it. You can't play this game without just admitting, if you've played Borderlands before, that it literally ripped stuff straight from it. The generic enemies are called mutants. Okay, kind of similar to the generic enemies in Borderlands. There's an enemy type called the Cleaver. It's a guy who's crazy who runs straight at you with a blade. Sound familiar? It's just like the psychos in Borderlands. The stronger style of enemies is a big, white, muscular dude holding a chain gun and or grenade launcher, kind of like the bigger guys in Borderlands. In fact, they look the same. And it's just like, I can't believe that this game is getting away with this, and that the developers of Borderlands aren't up in arms saying, what did you do? You basically lifted, half of the stuff out of our games. There's another enemy type that's bugs. That's right. It's straight out of the same thing as the bugs from Borderlands. It's literally the same shit. And even the visual appeal of the game. No, it's not cel-shaded, but it's going to be you and a bunch of people playing cooperatively, shooting things. You have the ability to enable damage indicators, so numbers are constantly flying out of the enemies as you shoot them. If you get a critical hit, the color of the number changes, just like in Borderlands. And it's to the point where it's ridiculous. Like, it looks and plays like a third-person shooter version of Borderlands. So, there's no originality in this game. It's like they lifted another universe, put it into their game, gave it a bare-bones story, and are saying, oh, here, it's an MMO. And in fact, if you want to know the truth, the only real uniqueness about Defiance is that it is an MMO, okay? It plays similarly to Borderlands, where you're going to have a lot of repetitive side missions and things that really don't add to the story whatsoever of the game, but they'll give you better loot. It has rare guns, just like Borderlands. It even color codes the guns by rarity, just like that game. And just like that game, you have the ability to add on incendiary damage, acid damage, all those effects and things that are present in this other game series. So it literally lifts all of the gameplay of the game, the enemy types, everything from a different game. Blatant theft, okay? The customization of your character is interesting. Okay, you can either make them invisible, you can make them have a decoy. You mean just like in Borderlands? Yes, even that. Even the character customization is lifted straight from the other game. So, what is the one unique factor? Like I said, it's because it's an MMO. Unlike Borderlands, where you can only play with 4 players at a time, in this game you're constantly going to be having hundreds of players dropping in, dropping out of areas. You'll go to do a story mission and there'll already be like 14 people there doing it, and you all do it together. There's actually these things across the map that are events, MMO-style events, that are related to the Ark, which is some kind of, I don't know, crystal or meteorite. It's not clear what it is, but it's some kind of an energy source, and if you do things based around these events, you can get extra loot, extra experience points. So for example, there's one event where there's an invasion of these bugs, and so there's maybe 5 giant crystals that you need to destroy in an area within a 30-minute time period, but the problem is that these crystals are completely surrounded by swarming mobs of these bugs that you have to kill. And so you'll be shooting the crystal, shooting the bugs, shooting the crystal, shooting the bugs. The crystal finally explodes, grab some loot, run to the next crystal. And then finally, once you defeat all the crystals, there's variations on it. Sometimes there'll be a master crystal that's a little bit tougher to kill, and then you completed that Ark event and you get some bonuses and experience for it. Sometimes it'll be a giant monster, a giant hive for these bugs, in which you have to fight a symbiote bug, which is a giant flying one. And then it has protectors called monarchs, which are giant melee ones, okay? There are also variations of this with the mutants as well. It's not only the bugs, but the bottom line is, the game is very, very random in the case where you're just going to be running around shooting shit. The whole game will be running around shooting random stuff. Whether it's a side mission, whether it's a story-based mission, whether it's one of these Ark events, all you do is run and gun and then loot and then level yourself up. Just like in Borderlands. And I hate to keep saying it, but literally, it feels like you're playing a third-rate version of Borderlands. And why do I say that? Number one, the graphics. And I'm not talking about the frame rate, I'm talking about the graphical detail of the game is lackluster, okay? The actual textures and things of the game aren't very complex. The graphics are really uninspired. It looks like a shooter that could have come out in 2006. It really does. There's nothing amazing here. During the cutscenes, there's an insane amount of screen tearing on the Xbox 360. Now, it's a cutscene. You could have pre-rendered it. Why did you instead choose to have rendered on-the-fly cutscenes if the screen was going to tear like crazy? It's a horrible design choice. During the cutscenes, the characters' mouths literally move like this when they talk. So really, it doesn't look like they're ever saying what they're saying. It looks like they're saying me 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 me. And it's awful. It's 2013, and you can't animate a fucking character's mouth in a cutscene properly yet? Like, what the hell kind of the dev team worked on this game? It makes no fucking sense. There just seems like there's a lack of effort, a lack of inspiration, even a lack of just confidence in the product. Almost like they were dialing it in with the graphical capabilities of the game because they knew this was just kind of like a throwaway game. Now we're going to talk about the major problem with the game. 100% the major problem with this game is the frame rate. The frame rate is fucking atrocious. Now keep in mind, I could be saying, okay, it's just the frame rate at the early game, and it's because there's so many people just starting to play the game that they're all in the same area and the frame rate drops. I could say that, except that I played the game for 4 hours to the point where I got to solo missions, like in the story, where it was just me playing, and the frame rate was still terrible. Now I'm talking, if you're soloing, the frame rate can go way below 30 frames per second. We're talking low 20s. In some areas where there were a lot of people playing the game, the frame rate was a slideshow. I'm not exaggerating. If you don't believe me, you have to go watch. I made 25 videos of the playthrough of this game before I said I can't play this anymore. It gets so bad, okay, that in areas with a lot of people playing, such as those ARC events that I just mentioned, which is kind of like the attraction of the game, what the game is pushing, say, hey, go participate in an ARC event. It's really cool. It's an MMO. You'll get to play with a bunch of people. It gets so bad that the enemies that you're all trying to focus on and kill start to chop up and then teleport across the screen. I was at an ARC event where we were fighting the giant monarch bugs. The monarch bugs would vanish from the screen for several seconds, then reappear somewhere else. You'd actually see people get hit by an invisible monster and go flying back 20 feet, and you're like, well, how are they supposed to dodge that when the character, the enemy, wasn't even on the screen? The game's graphical capabilities are not up to par with what they're trying to push out. Now again, I have to emphasize, I'm playing this on the Xbox 360. It's very possible that on the PlayStation 3 and or the PC that this might not be present. But now we're going to get into the final argument of this whole video and the point that I want to make in this video. It's 2013, okay? In 2013, we are 6 years, actually I think almost 7 years into the life cycle of the Xbox 360. At this point, everyone knows what the graphical capabilities of the console are. There's no excuse to not know. If you're not educated on a game that you're developing for a console and what the console's capabilities are, that's your fault. And so I have to point the finger to this Treon Worlds or whoever the fuck, made this game and say, dear Treon, you did not do your job. If you're going to make a cross-platform game, you have to be sure that the experience is at least semi-equal on every platform. And this game on the Xbox 360 is fucking unplayable. You get to the point where you really want to give the game a chance because you're like, okay, I can see it's an MMO. It's kind of got that addictive style gameplay similar to Borderlands. I could maybe get into this, especially when the TV show comes on, because when the TV show comes on, from what they're saying, it's going to coincide with the stuff going on in the game. Every week when a new episode comes out, there'll be new stuff added to the game that coincides with that TV episode, so how cool is that? So you want to give the game the benefit of the doubt. There's one problem, though. The TV show isn't out yet. They decided to release this subpar, lackluster, stolen Borderlands clone that's not as good as Borderlands, with horrible graphics and a terrible frame rate 2 weeks before the tie-in show that kind of gives it its coolness appeal came out. So the problem is there may have been some people who, if this game had come out 2 weeks later, had said, okay, well, yeah, there's big graphical problems, there's huge frame rate problems, but at least it's neat because it ties in with the show. If you bought this game this week, you don't even get that factor, okay? So for them to release the game 2 weeks early was a complete gaffe. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. All it does is it gives people a chance to play the game, see how horrible it fucking is, and say, I don't want to play this anymore, and now, you know what, I might have an interest in the show, but this kind of gives me a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't even want to watch the show anymore. So where the show tie-in could have been the big selling point, because they released it 2 weeks early, it was completely backfired. I'll be honest with everyone, I was going to watch Defiance. I had no real interest in it until I heard about the game, but I was interested in watching it, and now, fuck that. I'm pissed off that I spent $60 on a game that's boring. It's a blatant theft from another good game that does it way better, and it's unplayable because of the graphics. I don't care about the show now. I don't want to watch the show anymore. So this is probably one of the biggest mistakes, gaffes, flubs, mishandlings of a game I've ever seen in my life. And now I know right now there are people out there who may be playing this game on another console or on the PC, especially on the PC. And they'll say, oh, Phil, silly Phil, buying an MMO for a console, he should have known better. You don't buy MMOs for consoles, they're meant for PC. And, PC always has the outstanding experience with MMOs because they have better graphical capabilities because they're higher end, they're more expensive, they can handle this stuff better. The infrastructure is there already existing on PC. If you're going to play an MMO, you should play it on PC if there's an option. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you the fact that MMOs have been on PC for quite some time. The first MMO I ever played was EverQuest 1. And I played it for several months back when it was new, and I actually enjoyed the game. Despite the fact that I'll admit, there were crazy frame rate issues. There was jumping of enemies. Enemies were invisible. There were crazy bugs. Very similar to what happens in Defiance. There's one major problem here. EverQuest came out in the 1990s. The 1990s. It's 2013. 15 years later, they can't figure out how to solve these problems if you want to port it to a console. And the bottom line is, okay, maybe you can't. Maybe really the Xbox 360 can't handle what they wanted to do with the gameplay of Defiance, and that's why there's so many graphical issues. Guess what then? Don't fucking port it to the Xbox 360. Admit publicly, okay, the Xbox can't handle our vision for the game, we're not going to do it. No, instead, make a horrible fucking port of the game and rip everyone off. And I'm going to be honest, anyone who bought this game on the Xbox 360, you got stolen from. Because this is not a functional, playable game. This is not an experience that is worth $60, it's not worth $30. If this game were free to play, and you played it and you saw how horrible the graphics and everything were, and then you decided, okay, I'm going to invest my money in it because I still like it enough where I'm going to play it, that would have been acceptable. In fact, most MMOs today are free-to-play games. The fact that they charge you $60 up front for a fucking piece of shit, horrible port of this game is unacceptable. This company doesn't deserve to exist. They don't. I want my money back. There should be a class action lawsuit against these assholes to say if you bought this fucking piece of shit that you get your money back because it's not a playable game. It's shit, okay? It's not fair. It's not acceptable, despite the fact that even the gameplay is a lift of Borderlands. It's uninspired. It's boring. Just the fact that the graphics are so bad on the Xbox 360, this is theft, okay? This is a crime. These people should be brought to court and sued for putting this game out on the console. It's not fair, okay? So, that's all I have to say about Defiance. It's a joke. On the Xbox 360, the game is a joke. I understand the argument, if you're going to play an MMO, you should play it on PC, that's fine. But when a game performs so poorly, to the point where it's unplayable, the enemies that are, this is the big experience, the ARC event that I'm supposed to be having fun with in this game. Oh look, everyone's teleporting all over and disappearing, and you can't even tell what you're shooting at. It's fucking bullshit. This game is bullshit on the Xbox 360. No one should buy it for that console. The game should not be given any credit whatsoever. It's a piece of fucking shit. It doesn't deserve me to play it longer to review it. The game is garbage. It's worthless. This game does not even get a score because it doesn't warrant a fucking score. It's a piece of trash. Oh. And I'm disappointed because, like I said, I had plans to possibly play Defiance once or twice every week as I coincided with the new episode of the show. Those plans are now completely thrown out the window. Fuck that game. I want my money back. I deserve my money back. These people should be ashamed for putting out a game that bad. If you don't believe me, all you need to do is watch just a small handful of the videos that I made this week of my Defiance gameplay. The game is garbage. Okay, that's it for my rant on Defiance. The game is shit. I don't know what happened to this game in development, but they should have never ported it to the Xbox 360. I hope now I've helped you to understand, do not fucking buy this game for the Xbox 360. At least if you're going to give it a shot, try it on a different format. But I wouldn't even give these people the benefit of the doubt after seeing how horrible the game is on the Xbox to trust that it's going to be better on anything else. I would skip it. Alright everyone, that's all I really had to talk about. Thanks for bearing with me with this kind of rant about the game. And, peace. See you later.